Okay, in this video we're going to work with what is sometimes called dimensional analysis, sometimes people call it factor label method. What we're going to do is we're going to work with conversions, and we're going to work on converting one unit into something else. For example, the first problem wants us to convert 36 weeks into days. I have some general steps for you right here in this box, so if you want to pause it and you want to look at this for just a minute, I'm going to repeat these steps as we do the problems. These are words to live by in chemistry or some of your AP classes when you need to convert units. So here's what we're going to do. Step number 1 over here says write what's given to you, and that's exactly where we're going to start. We're going to write down the 36 weeks. You can abbreviate the unit, but you need the number and you need the word that goes with it. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put that over 1. It says put a 1 as the denominator if there's only one unit. If there's 2 units, we'll get to that in just a minute. So we're going to put a 1 underneath it. We're going to write the multiplication sign. Some of them I may work with like a table where I draw a bar down to make another fraction, but we're going to make another fraction after this in the denominator of the next fraction. We have to put the unit that came from the numerator up above. In the numerator up here, we're going to write something that relates to weeks. In this case, I do know how many days are in a week, so I can put days on top of weeks. There's 7 days in 1 week. Now, I mean, it wouldn't be plural, but whatever. What's going to happen now is that weeks, it's going to cancel. Because remember, when you're multiplying fractions, you're multiplying across the top and you're dividing by the bottom. So what that's going to do is it's going to give us 36 times 7 divided by 1. Obviously, I'm not going to put into my calculator the divided by 1 part because that's just kind of a waste of my energy. But that comes up to be 252. The word that's left right here is the unit for my answer. 252 days. Okay, this one we only had to do one conversion factor. A conversion factor is something that's equal to 1. It's 2 things that are equal to themselves. For example, 7 days is equal to 1 week. We're going to try this with the next one. Convert 80 grams into milligrams. When we're doing this with metric prefixes, there's, sometimes different ways to think about this. We're going to just do it the way that I've introduced in class, and if someone else has taught you a different way, that's fine. There is more than one way to do this. 80 grams is what we have to start with. I write down my given, and I'm going to put it over 1. I'm going to draw the multiplication sign. We'll make another fraction. Whatever unit is up here, in this case grams, has to go into the bottom of the next one. I can relate grams directly to milligrams. Milli stands for 10 to the negative third. It's 1,000th of a gram. What I've asked my students to do is to put the number 1 with whatever has the prefix. So 1 goes with milligram. It's got milli with it. And then put the meaning of milligram right here. A milligram is 10 to the negative third. So if you need to look at this for just a second, we'll see how easily I can make it back and forth. But I've asked my students to memorize that mega is 10 to the 6th. Kilo is 10 to the 3rd. We went down to deci is 10 to the negative 1st. Centi, 10 to the negative 2nd. Milli, 10 to the negative 3rd. And then I've asked my class to do micro, 10 to the negative 6th. Nano, which is 10 to the negative 9th. And pico, which is 10 to the negative 12th. So you basically just have to stick those in your head and keep them there in order to be able to come back over here and write your conversion factors. Milligrams is where I'm at right now. Grams cancels. Milligrams is what it's asking me for, so I'm ready to quit. I'm ready to move on from my problem. So I'm going to have 80 divided by 10 to the negative third is how we're going to work this. And you're going to end up with 80,000 milligrams. Okay? If you stop to think about this for a second, it makes sense because a gram's big and a milligram is little. It would take a whole lot of little milligrams in order to equal 80 grams. And I got a bigger number. That's what it should be. If it went smaller, you did something wrong. Okay? Now, with number 3, we're going from 1 metric unit from a milliliter to a deciliter. Now, I'm sure that there's a lot of bright people out there who could do this with just moving the decimal around, but that's not really what my video is intended for. I'm intending this for people who are having some difficulty with this, so I'm going to suggest that we go from milli to something more common like liter, and then we backtrack to deciliters. I realize that's a lot of work, but we'll get it right. So we've got what we started with, 25.0 milliliters over 1 times. Our next step is to put the letters, the word from up here, down in the bottom of our next fraction, because that way they're canceled. Okay, again, I don't know the meaning of milli in relation to deci. I know milli related to liter, so that's what I'm going to do first. The number 1 is going to go with the prefix. 1 milliliter is 10 to the negative third liters, because milli means 10 to the negative third. That cancels. If I stop right now, I'm left with liters, and that's not what it asks for. It asks for deciliters. So that means I don't stop. I go again. Now we're going to repeat right here. It says repeat steps 2 and 3. Repeat carrying this unit down. Liters is up top, so liters goes on the bottom. We're going to put deci here. Deci means 10 to the negative first. Oh, sorry, I did that wrong. Deci is going to get the 1 because it's the prefix. I make mistakes too. 10 to the negative first will go with liter. Liters cancels. I'm left with deciliters, which is where I want to go. And now you're ready to stop and do your math so that you can end up where you need to be. So at this point, you're going to multiply across the top, and you're going to divide by the bottom. This negative 3 is going to move your decimal 3 spaces over, so it's 0.025. And then dividing it by negative 1 is going to move it back over, so we're going to end up with 0.25 deciliters. If you can't do it that way, then you can put it into the calculator. Let's see if I can find one that's got 2. Okay, here's one more problem that has 2 units. We're going to do number 12 here. So when we do 2 units, it's the same steps as 1 unit. So we write what we have, which is 3.0 times 10 to the 8th meters. But instead of on the bottom just putting a 1, I'm going to put 1 second because the number 1 is understood with that. And meters per second means meters over seconds. We're going to do the same exact steps, except we're going to change one of these or the other, and then we're going to do whichever one we don't do first, we're going to do later. I'm going to start out changing the meters part. So I'm basically going to pretend like this part down here isn't even there. So first, actually here's what I may even do. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 1 second in a different color, and then that might help us differentiate it. So we'll put 1 second on the bottom, and let's come back up here. We're going to change the blue part first. We're going to change meters. So meters goes in the bottom so that it'll cancel, and I need to change it into miles, and I don't know that off the top of my head, but over here is a conversion for me that there's 1610 meters in 1 mile, 1,610 meters per mile. Okay, meters cancels, and if I stop right now, I do have the top number in miles, which is what it wants the top number to be. Now I need to get the bottom number into hours, so I'll switch over to red. What we're going to do is this time we're going to put seconds on the top because I need the seconds to cancel out, and I need to get seconds into hours, but most people don't know the number of seconds in an hour. They know the number of seconds in a minute, that there's 60 seconds in 1 minute. So seconds has now canceled, and right now if I stop I have miles per minute. Since that's not what it wants, I'm going to put minutes on the top and hours on the bottom. There are 60 minutes in 1 hour. That makes minutes cancel, and I'm left with miles per hour. So now we can stop and we can do our math, and I don't have the answer to this right off the top. That is going to be 3 times 10 to the 8th times 3,600 divided by 1610. So we get a lot. It's 670807453.4 miles per hour, which is really fast, of course. Let's see. That's 670,807,453 miles an hour, but it's the speed of light, and light travels really fast, so that makes sense. Okay, so 2 units is a little bit different from 1, but not that drastically.